Welcome to the City Rooster Forum. I'm Ken Kasner, and I'm here with you today to talk about the oversights of conservatism and liberalism. Okay? Now, a lot of things in this country have been given a bad rap for various reasons. Conservatives and liberals are no different. And the reason why they have is because of all these things that they've been going through. Conservatives used to turn a blind eye to a lot of brewing problems. They did not worry that their country was in danger of being overrun by socialism or any of the progressive movement. And now today, they make the mistake of continuing that by feeling that they're in this fight alone, and they're not. All patriots are in this fight to try to revive our country. And what I mean is the mistake that liberals make, and that's to believe in the progressive movement thinking that it's going to happen, that it's going to make progress, that it's going to improve our country. It's not. The United States was based on a very recent premise. And what I mean is socialism and communism, and recently known as Marxism because of Karl Marx of Russia, were all very old methods of running society where only the elite were to benefit from society, and that anybody who was not fortunate or did not have opportunity or anything was considered inferior. And we're not just talking about slaves, we're talking about anybody who was not fortunate, anybody who was poor, anybody who did not do well or have too much opportunity. Capitalism is the greatest system, and that's what makes the United States great. Capitalism is, regardless of any other definitions, public access to the open market. It makes it possible for anybody to have the opportunity to be successful. And capitalism works that way. Socialism and communism are tens of thousands of years old. And for that reason, for tens of thousands of years, okay, man has not improved. Man has not developed. We've discovered fire. We've discovered the wheel. We've had little things along the way. But industry and improvements and development in our society as humans did not really make any significant jumps until 500 years ago when the idea of capitalism came into place. Capitalism that started to spread around not only the Western world, but it started to spread around Oceania, if I'm pronouncing it right. It started to spread when in the New World, when we came here. Those things happened all because of capitalism. Capitalism giving the opportunity for people to enjoy what the elites do, and even show that they were just as smart as the elites. And that's what we are. Everybody is just as smart as the elites. However, people don't realize it. We have to think that no matter what color, race, creed, or whoever, it's true. They've all benefited from capitalism. You don't have to be living as a pauper. Nobody is a pauper when we have capitalism. When we have socialism or Marxism, we have paupers. We have people that feel they're inferior and people that feel they're superior. And that was never right. Slavery is a part of socialism. It's a part of communism. It's part of the progressive movement. The progressive movement was made and devised to try to do away with capitalism. So anybody that supports progressivism, and more people are dropping out of that movement, are dropping out of the movement that supports everything bad that made any controversy, that made any openness for war. Unfortunately, it's getting to us today because we did not deal with it when it was starting to happen. When progressivism was starting to develop in this country back in the early 1900s, we allowed these progressivism movements to come in. We allowed the progressives to come in and start to take shape. And for 137 years, over a century, the United States was living off of the idea of capitalism. Capitalism brought us our great industry. It wasn't just white people, it was everybody. The inventor of plasma was a doctor who was black. He would not have been able to be successful if it weren't for the capitalism that gave him the opportunity to show how brilliant he was, how innovative he was, and how much he could contribute. And he's part of history today. People who are part of socialism or part of progressivism or Marxism are never remembered at all. Okay? We never have any progress with progressivism. It's just a name. Okay? Capitalism was the greatest type of method of society we had. It was the greatest form of industry we had, because even though capitalism is just possibly 500 years old, nothing in this world significantly developed until capitalism came into play. We didn't have any significant inventions till capitalism came along. We didn't have any type of industry. We didn't have any type of technology till capitalism came along. Capitalism is responsible for that. Sometimes when I talk to socialists, I say to them, remember that it was capitalism that made you everything you are today. People that were elite were lucky enough to come from very rich backgrounds and be descendants of people who happen to have been lucky enough to, should we say, have the gold. And those people don't realize it. That's why the people who are running the socialist movement, the people who are running the communist countries, are very, very elite people. And they're never remembered. They just want to live a life where they think they're superior to others. And that's why the more they get, the less they're satisfied, because they're not happy with anything they have. A person who capitalizes on capitalism, no pun intended, is grateful for everything they have, regardless of religion or not. Religion is one way of saying thank you for everything you have, and you use God as a spirit because that's who you know to do it. But there are other ways. I myself am agnostic, and I'm very grateful, and I believe capitalism is the greatest system. When you live a capitalist lifestyle, your life is your own. You're in control of everything. Everything belongs to you that you work for, and you can feel good about it. But if you support the socialist movement and you're not even elite, you don't know what you're throwing away. You don't know how bad your life can be. You're living off of other people's money, and as they say, you eventually run out of other people's money, and they use that to try to take control. But capitalism is where everybody's in control. So when the United States was formed, it was formed on the premise that this was the people's government, for the people, by the people, of the people. The reason why that was said and the way the Constitution was written was because of capitalism, because we're going to let the people be in charge. Nobody would be inferior. The progressive movement was based on people, who came from elites who did not feel they had anything to worry about and did not feel they had anything to lose. Slavery has been a part of our society for tens of thousands of years, long before written history, because there was no capitalism. In socialist or communist countries, slavery is still taking place. But in a capitalistic country, it doesn't last that long. In our country, it only lasted for 90 years. Only 2% of the population actually owned slaves. I always felt that slavery was just a form of captivity, where people capture you and they force you to do things for them and submit to their lifestyle. Where a lot of people that were in slavery did not have to. They could be part of capitalism. So when people are running around today with signs and they're fighting ICE and they're basically trying to push movements to destroy the country, they don't know what they're trying to get rid of. They don't know what they're doing. When people say to free Palestine, to the river, to the sea, and try to get rid of Israel, they don't know what they're doing. They're just going on propaganda because they're lazy and they're greedy. And they feel that the best way to live is by somebody else taking care of them. Well, if they succeed in this movement and progressivism succeeds in destroying this country, they're going to get what they want, but they're not going to be happy. They're going to suffer just as much as the people who oppose progressivism. Progressivism is the movement that was created by Marxists and socialists and communists to try to destroy capitalism. Capitalism allows for us to work for everything we have and actually own it. I talked about 1913 in a recent video I did with somebody else and discussed this because 1913 was the biggest move that the progressive movement made to try to become a part of the fabric of our capitalistic society. And it's done us no good. We've had 4 socialist presidents, and each one of them did a lot of damage. Now, we're going to try to fight this progressive movement if we are to keep our country. The sad part about this is that since capitalism is new compared to other forms of lifestyle, such as socialism, Marxism, and communism, it's only 500 years old. It's still an experiment. And when it's left untouched, it's a great experiment. You've heard of the term the American experiment. Well, what are we experimenting with? We're experimenting with capitalism. We're experimenting with the idea that everybody can not only be free, but be responsible, because with freedom comes responsibility. And it's very hard to find a medium in the society when we have a divided country. We have a divided country because a lot of people never learned about being responsible. That's the catch to capitalism. You have to work for everything you have. You have to work hard for it. You have to understand the fabric of family. You have to understand family and the responsibility that's required to put a good family out. You have to understand the responsibility of a child and taking care of a child, and all children need a mother and a father. Those are responsibilities. The progressive movement is growing only because they're feeding off of all the people that don't want to work and don't want to even take care of themselves. They are so unknowledgeable. They don't have to be extra cultured. There's no reason to have big, huge houses and somebody else pays for it. There's no reason for corruption. We just have it because some people don't believe in working for it. Corruption is usually the lifeblood of socialism and communism. Matter of fact, it almost always is. And communism basically is what takes over a society. Now, if these progressives knew better, they could still be liberals. They could still be conservatives. Conservative is somebody that just doesn't want a lot of change. They want to keep everything the same. They want to conserve it. Liberals are people that are thirsty for change. They have a thirst for change. They just want to change. Any type of change is good with them. They were vulnerable towards being attracted to the progressive movement because they saw it as a change. They didn't know if it was a good change or a bad change. They just saw it as a change. And conservatives were the first to oppose it because they didn't want to see too much change. Now, if you want to change where you live, you want to change what kind of work you do, you want to change your religion and convert, that's your choice. It's a personal choice. That's what freedom in this country, freedom of religion in this country is all about. It's all about having choice. I'm agnostic. I'm under that clause too, even though I don't get involved with organized religion. Freedom of religion also includes the freedom to not get involved with religion. So it also applies to atheists and agnostics. And most atheists and agnostics are good people. Atheists and agnostics are good people. They don't get involved in the destruction of progressivism. That's why you have many atheists and agnostics, like myself, that are very patriotic. We believe in trying to preserve this country, and in doing so, we believe in trying to preserve capitalism. That's the secret to it. We have to preserve the capitalism. All those people that come from other countries and fighting for other countries and coming here and not being grateful for anything, they're socialists, they're communists. That's why their country is not doing well. And unfortunately, our country is suffering from this way too much. We have lots of time to try to turn this around, but not much time if we don't do anything. We don't do anything, and eventually we're going to go into a situation where the country is overrun, the country changes its name, changes its culture, and when that happens, we lose everything that many soldiers in early days fought so hard for. While I don't believe in war, I believe in protecting this country. This country is important to capitalism. Now, I myself don't believe in Wikipedia. Wikipedia calls itself the online encyclopedia, but they're not. They're only the online propaganda machine. They keep changing things around. They keep editing things around. Most of it is edited by people who believe in Marxism or socialism or oppose capitalism altogether. Most of them come out with propaganda. Many of the articles and items and entrees in Wikipedia are wrong. I only go there because they're good spellers, to check on grammar and punctuation. Sometimes I even check their dates and compare their dates with other sources, but I would never go by them. Everything they say is either wrong or misrepresented. Matter of fact, the reason why the Constitution is misrepresented is because the people who originally said they wanted to get rid of the U.S. Constitution and criticized it because it was only written by white men are now using it to try to push resistance against any good leadership in this country. That includes Donald Trump, who is giving up his retirement years to try to fight for our country. He put his life on the line. He gave up a lot of time. He's had character assassinations done to him by the left. The liberal crew, the liberal population that believes in socialism and progressivism. The people who don't show any type of gratefulness for anything done. They don't realize when you go out there and you march with signs and you shout out things that, whether right or wrong, you're doing it in a country where you have that right. If you can't do those things in China, you can't do those things in North Korea. You don't have any type of free speech there. People didn't learn from the Brittany Griner event. Brittany Griner is a guy who plays in the WNBA. He was arrested by Russian police when he traveled over there. Now, he was over there for a good reason, because he wasn't making a lot of money playing basketball in the U.S., so he decided to play in Russia. Okay, that's cool. What's not cool is that when he was arrested, he should have remembered he was in a different country, under different laws, even a different type of regime, and they were not capitalistic. Many people said that he should not have gone over there with drugs. I don't even believe he had drugs at the time. I'm not sure. I don't know. But he treated the Russian authorities as if he was still in America. He shouted out about his constitutional rights and demanded a lawyer. Lawyers in Russia don't mean very much. There's no rights to fight for. It's not as capitalistic as the U.S. He was thrown in jail, and he was put on a work farm or some sort. And Joe Biden got him out of there ahead of people that deserved to be brought out of there, and brought him back to this country. Now, it's unclear whether Brittany Griner actually is a patriot and grateful for what he had here, as opposed to Russia, where he didn't have what he has here. Many of these people who are trying to put resistance up and make it hard for our good leadership to accomplish anything, and are fighting for all these illegal aliens and are fighting for criminals, they don't know what they're getting rid of. They don't know what they're throwing away. They don't understand. And that's what socialist elite want. That's what socialists and Marxists and communists want. They want their following to be stupid. That's why there's all this movement in schools to try to dumb down children, to try to make them part of the socialist elite and make them inferior. Because when people are smart, they want to capitalize on the opportunity to try to be something, to try to work for what they have. But that's not what's happening here. And we have to turn this around. Hopefully, a lot of people will have learned from this and learn in time so that we don't lose our country. My fear is that it may not happen in time. It took Americans over 70 or 80 years, even longer, to learn that this was a problem to worry about. People confuse politics with political drama, and there's a difference. So when people say, I don't get involved with politics, I don't get into politics, I don't want to talk politics, one of two things: they're either making the mistake of confusing it with political drama that's used to try to distract people from the important issues, or they're ignorant and they don't care. And they're using it as a cop-out line to try to avoid addressing that there are some important things we need to do. Everybody wants to enjoy life, of course. Now, you have to take care of your health. They say if you have your health, you have everything. If you don't have your health, you have nothing. Well, politics, and I can't say this too many times, is the variation of the word policy, which means leadership, and this is our leadership. You have to take care of politics like you were taking care of your health, because if you don't take care of these leadership matters, that is our country, you take your eye off the ball, your lifestyle is going to be offended. You're going to lose freedoms if you haven't lost some already. People should have looked over at Europe. They should have looked over at Europe, and they should have seen from what's going over there, we better do something, or we're going to become like Europe. We're going to become like Britain. People in Britain are getting arrested just for a social media post, not even a bad one. There are people that got arrested in England just for putting posts out that didn't have anything to do with politics or leadership. There was a woman that got arrested in England just for putting up a recipe. Imagine that. You want to put up something about sports or recipes or this or that here, and you get arrested? Imagine that happening. And these people are fighting for that to happen. There are people here that are fighting because they don't know they're being fooled by the socialist movement. And now, on another hand, you also have to feel bad for these people that are following the socialist movements because they're throwing their lives away. You only live once. You only get one life. You only get one shot at being able to have a family and a happy life. And you're throwing it away by marching in the streets and throwing rocks at ICE cars and burning buildings down? That's what you're going to do with your life? Greta Thunberg, who thinks she's so smart, dropped out of school, not for a very good reason, just to become an activist for something she knew very little about. And then she went down to Israel thinking that she was going to set them straight. She thought maybe the Jews were really trying to hurt other people, that's their motive in life. And then she was turned away. Greta Thunberg is an example of somebody who's going to turn 40 or 45 one day, if she lives that long, and look back on her life, and whether she says it out loud, look in the mirror and wonder, I could have done so much better with my life, and now it's all gone. Do I have a chance to get started again? Well, with capitalism, you do. But a lot of these people are not operating like they want to live off of capitalism. They want to live in socialism. Many people in New York City who are not well-to-do had the opportunity to change it and turn it around. And now, with this new mayor, Zoran Mandani, who everybody has known to be a communist mayor, is going to take that away from them. And he went to the White House to try to hit up money from Donald Trump. Donald Trump said some nice things about him. He said nothing nice about Donald Trump. He was too self-absorbed in his communistic and socialistic ways. He just wants money so that he can fund this horrible, horrible plan of his for New York City. And if that grows, if that expands to the rest of the country, we could lose many opportunities. And it's going to be a dagger to capitalism, because capitalism was a wonderful thing. Capitalism was what made industry possible. Now, AI is supposed to replace human beings. It's a scammer's best friend. It's supposed to only do bad things to the human race. So AI could possibly speed up the fall of capitalism. It could speed up all the great things that made our industry great. Technology was only supposed to be a tool to man. It wasn't supposed to be something that takes over what man does. Man is supposed to be technology's boss not the other way around. Why would you want a machine to do your thinking for you? When I was a kid, the teacher said, put your calculators away, we're having a test. Now, many teachers say, take your calculators out, we're having a test. Many college students are using AI, artificial intelligence, to do their papers. So what's the purpose in doing the papers if you're not going to actually do them yourself and learn? Now, colleges and universities were always having the reputation of being a seed of capitalism. And it turns out that that was always wrong. They were a seed of communism and socialism. They don't bring education to people. I told my daughter, college doesn't make you smart. You make you smart. And that should be everybody's thinking. Nobody gets anything out of college except for credibility. If you want to learn, yeah, you could use the resources, but you don't have to go to an Ivy League college. You don't have to go to these big expensive colleges with supposedly great reputations. All they have is wonderful infrastructure and a staff of socialists to teach you. Well, what can you possibly learn from a socialist that you can't learn from a capitalist? And that's why colleges are a big source of these riots. And now we have psychiatrists. I never liked psychiatrists, not since school, when I found out what they really are. They put you on medication, drug you up, so that you don't even know your own mind. A lot of these people that are homeless, that choose to be homeless, there are people that don't choose to be homeless, and many that do. But the ones that do choose to are on medication. They're on psychiatric medication. They're on street drugs. Street drugs and psychiatric medication are basically one of the same. The same chemicals, the same motives, give you the same highs. You have the same illusions. It takes you away from reality. And as a result, a lot of those people remain homeless, and their communities throw money at the problem if they're in what's called a blue city or a blue state. Now, that's all for this video of the City Rooster Forum. Thank you for tuning in and listening. Like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Be happy to have you. And to this day, the City Rooster Forum charges no money.